Hey, it's Katherine from Brandequip Designs, and today I want to talk a little bit about GDPR because I've noticed that there are quite a few business owners who still have not yet worked on becoming GDPR compliant. And it's totally okay, I get it. Honestly, though, it's not too difficult to do if you're a small business not located in the GDPR countries that it actually is affecting, and also you're not handling a ton of data. So, what I mean by handling a lot of data is if you were maybe a startup and your startup was developing a form software for other businesses to use to gather data from their audience. So if that's something that you kind of fall into, you probably have a lot more to do with GDPR compliancy. But for the average small business in the US, it's really not that difficult, and there's really only 3 things you need to do. In fact, you can get this done in less than a week. I can tell you this from experience because I think I did it in like 2 or 3 days. So I will go through what 3 things you need to do, but just be aware that I'm not legally qualified to be giving you advice on these matters, and I would highly recommend you consult a lawyer or even to double check some stuff from a reputable lawyerly source. I will actually drop you a link below with a webinar put on by said lawyer so that you can get a few more details on this from a more reputable source than me. However, it definitely goes more in depth. It's like an hour and a half long. It's great, but it takes a little bit of time, and I'm just outlining the 3 things you need to do so that you realize that you don't have to let this overwhelm you, and you can pretty easily get it handled now or next week or something like that. So that's all it takes is budgeting a little bit of time for it. Okay. So the 3 things that you need to do as a small business is to update your privacy policy, to put up a notice on your website, and to put a disclaimer link in all of the forms you're using to collect data. Now I'm going to go through each of these a little bit more so that you have a bit more background on it, but it's pretty basic. So the privacy policy, you definitely need to update this because that's what the whole GDPR thing is going to revolve around. If you were to implement the other 2 steps without updating your privacy policy or ensuring that your privacy policy is GDPR compliant, then you're not going to be GDPR compliant, okay? So the easiest way to update your privacy policy is to hire a lawyer. I would recommend hiring a lawyer within your state, if not in your country, okay? Because sometimes there are different laws that you need to comply with in order to be GDPR compliant or in order to be compliant with your own country or state's laws. So, FYI, hire within your locale. Alternatively, if you're not in a position to hire a lawyer at this point in time, you can also find and buy GDPR friendly templates for you to fill in yourself. Now, I would recommend not doing the whole I'm going to look at other GDPR compliant websites and base my privacy policy off of that, because you don't always know how GDPR compliant that website and privacy policy actually is. They may have gone through the steps, but the thing is that they may have a lower risk tolerance or a higher risk tolerance than you do. So they may have left something out that you would not be comfortable with leaving out in ensuring your GDPR compliancy. So always go to a reputable source for your privacy policies. And when I say reputable source, I mean like a lawyer or a template that is created by a lawyer. Okay, so once you have your privacy policy in place, and that can take no time from you, or, a day or two to get all together, depending on which route you go, you're going to want to put up a notice on your website. That's just like one of those little banner things that's either at the top or the bottom of the website page saying that you are using cookies, if you're using cookies, and to read the privacy policy to see how you handle data. If you are using Google Analytics and the Facebook Pixel, then you're going to need to mention something along those lines in that banner. And also, if you have a accept upon scroll option and you want to use that, then you need to say, by scrolling down, you are showing that you accept this. Because otherwise people might think that, oh, I never actually accepted that. So you need to specifically say, look, if you scroll, then you accept. Otherwise they have to press the little accept button. So for WordPress, there are plenty of plugins that you can use for cookie consent. I personally am using the GDPR cookie consent. It was built for GDPR compliancy, and is pretty easy to use and design, and seems pretty robust. No cookie consent plugin, however, is going to make it so that you are GDPR compliant unless your privacy policy is up to date and you do this final step, which is making sure that your disclaimer and possible checkbox is on every form of your website. So what does that mean? So if you have an email list and you have opt-ins to get in on your email list, that's going to be a form, and you either need to have a checkbox saying how you're going to use their data, and that by clicking that link and getting that guide, they are becoming a part of your newsletter, or you need to have a double opt-in telling us how you're using the information and all sorts of jazz like that. And if you have the double opt-in, you do not need the checkbox. If you have the checkbox, you do not need the double opt-in. You can do both. But you do need to just kind of say somewhere on that form how their information is going to be used. Whether or not they actually click a checkbox to accept it is up to you, and for you to decide based on what other measures you have put in place to get affirmative consent that they are good with giving you their private data. Okay, so I will put a link for that particular plugin below if you want to check it out. If you're using Squarespace, I know that they have a banner thing already built in. It's just a matter of turning it on and making sure that it has the banner text that you need it to have and a link to your privacy policy. So did I already say that? Okay. And then putting that disclaimer up, sorry, I'm all around. Putting up the disclaimer on your forms. I covered the opt-in. Your contact forms are also going to need that. So probably for a contact form, you're going to want to have a checkbox being like, here's how I plan on using your data in order to communicate with you, blah, 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 blah. If you have surveys that you would like people to take, if they're anonymous, you can say that they're anonymous. If you're gathering information, then you need to say how you're going to be, what you're going to be doing with that information and how it will be used, and that kind of stuff. If you have all of those things in place, your privacy policy, your banner notice on the website, and the link to your privacy on every form, and possibly a checkbox showing consent to giving you that data, then you're probably good. That's really all you need to do. It's 3 things. They're pretty easy to implement. The hardest one is going to be the privacy policy, and you can just hire out or get a template and, follow the template and implement it yourself. So that's really it. I will put a couple of links in the description to the resources that I really found useful in getting myself GDPR compliant. And like I said, it only took a couple of days. It can take a week or less if you want it to. It's just a matter of budgeting time and making it a priority. So I hope that was helpful, and I will talk to you guys again later.